Let's talk about the health of love, and in particular, let's talk about what's been going on with gay marriage in Alabama. So, okay, down in Alabama State, we had a series of court cases be decided, and most notably, there was a couple, Jim Strasser and John Humphrey, who were plaintiffs in a case who challenged Alabama's ban on gay marriage. And there was a federal appeals court judge who struck down the ban as unconstitutional. The people who were trying to uphold the ban appealed and tried to take it to the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court said no, the federal judge was right. This ban on gay marriage is unconstitutional. Now, you would think that this is the end of it, right? Because, Supreme Court is final authority in the land, and that, they say something is unconstitutional, then, it's just got to go. But no, down in Alabama, we have got a Alabama State Chief Justice, Roy Moore, who wrote an order to the county officials who issue marriage licenses to follow the state law banning gay marriage. Roy Moore went on to say that any of these probate judges who violate his order will be reprimanded by the governor. His words, and I quote, are effective immediately. No probate judge of the state of Alabama, nor any agent or employee of any Alabama probate judge shall issue or recognize a marriage license that is inconsistent with a constitutional amendment and state law banning same-sex unions. Wow. Okay, Judge, you need to get it together. Judge Roy Moore was wrong back in 2003, and this was back when you, Judge, refused to remove a 2.5-ton monument to the Ten Commandments at the Alabama Judicial Building. And no, really, you got to look this up. Judge Roy Moore lost his job 12 years ago because he refused to cooperate with a really basic ruling about the separation of church and state. And it sounds like you're wrong again, Governor. It's really just shameful. And, when I look at, news stories like today, today is February 10th, and we have Anne Suzanne DiPrizio, who is a woman in Autauga County. She was charged with a misdemeanor disorderly conduct this morning after offering to perform a same-sex marriage inside the probate judge's office. She is now being held on a $1,000 bond. And it's just amazing to me that we are criminalizing a woman who is basically trying to help a couple, enjoy their marriage rights, which the Supreme Court has protected. Judge and the legal community in Alabama, if you're cooperating with Judge Roy Moore, you are on the wrong side of history, you guys. You are really, really on the wrong side of this one. Before I get into some of that, some of you might be wondering, why is gay marriage a health issue? Let me try to explain it this way. Many of our health rights are actually tied to the legality or illegality or legal recognition of marriage. And, what you would need to have according to federal and state law is that you would have to have your marriage recognized, by law in order to enjoy or take advantage of some of the other privileges and rights that marriage confers. For example, if you want to be covered under a spouse's or parent's health insurance, then you would want that parent or spouse to be, if their household is being defined by a legal marriage, then you're going to need to know that your, federal and state governments are recognizing that marriage as legal, so that you, when you apply for coverage under your spouse's health insurance, that you will be covered, that nobody can be, that you cannot be denied that because your marriage wasn't recognized. Similarly, and perhaps even more basic than that, is spousal decision-making in healthcare. I can just try to imagine any range of diagnoses, right? You can imagine that if you're facing an unfortunate end of life situation where you want, your spouse, the person that you have spent, maybe a lifetime with, or maybe you've spent, a lot of your you've at least spent like some quality time building a romance and building a bond and building this relationship to the point where you are trusting this person with medical decisions when you yourself are incapacitated by, some kind of diagnosis, be that cancer or something terminal. You would want to know that your spouse's decisions are being honored by everybody involved, whether that's the healthcare system, the legal system, you name it. You would want that person who you have called your spouse and who's calling you a spouse to actually have your relationship be respected in the world of law so that decisions can be made accordingly. I dread the idea that we would ever be stuck with the Terry Schiavo kind of situation where, somebody who is terminally ill is not having their adult relationship recognized, and now it's their parents who may have kicked them out is going to try and make their medical decisions when they've actually made it a point maybe to not be in their in this person's life anymore. So you can imagine, like, spousal decision making in healthcare is a big reason why we as doctors support gay marriage and the rights that come along with it. Similarly with, the Family Medical Leave Act, with paid sick days, whenever you see a piece of legislation that is about, giving a worker the right to take care of a family member or loved one, that you would want, that loved one to include, same-sex spouses and people whose current marriage rights are up for question. Because, being able to take care of somebody, as we've talked about on this show before, is a basic part of, public health, health justice, health rights. And so marriage is very much tied into all of that. I am not the only doctor who is making these connections. I am proud to say that the American Medical Association got it right on this one. The American Psychiatric Association has it right, and so does the American Academy of Pediatrics. They've all written very clear, very unequivocal policy statements giving their support for LGBTQ couples and giving them their full marriage rights. And I'm proud to be, to be part of the American Academy of Pediatrics on this one, because they actually pointed to children in particular and said that, children seem to have the best health outcomes when they live in households with two parents, regardless of whether those two parents are different sexes, same sexes, what have you. When both parents have the stability of a marriage where they're not in this legal limbo of, are their finances going to be respected? Are their health decisions going to be respected? The kids themselves do better when their parents have got that kind of legal stability. And so pediatricians are very much in favor of helping parents attain their full marriage rights, and I hope Alabama, you need to get it together and really make this happen. Because when I look at when I try to help my colleagues and my friends and my family try to understand why this issue matters to all of us, it's and when I say all of us, I mean all of us, regardless of our sexual orientation, race, religion, what have you. The reason why I feel passionate about a lot of this is that whenever you hear the opposition talking, when you hear them, and these are some religious extremists, and that's not to say if you're religious you're an extremist. It's just that we all know who some of these folks are. It's like these holier than thou folks who seem to take it upon themselves to bludgeon their faith upon everybody else. But when you really listen to their opposition to gay marriage, it's actually some very antiquated arguments that they used against other forms of marriage that all of us have become slowly but surely very comfortable with. And in particular, I point to two examples. One is interracial marriages. When you look at, how long it took for interracial marriage to be legal in this country, is just striking. And these are people of the same faith but of different skin color. And when the fight for interracial marriage was going on in the 60s, again with the Supreme Court, we had a lot of opponents who were saying that this would be the destruction of modern civil society, just like they're kind of saying now. And I can tell you that since about 1967, which was when some of the Supreme Court cases were finally decided, and as each state kind of came around to allowing for interracial faith or interracial marriages, what we're finding is the society is doing just fine. I've got friends, I've got family who are in these really beautiful marriages, and they it's all different kinds of colors coming together, and our society is doing just fine. So the religious extremists are getting it wrong on this one. And even more basic than that is the second example, which is of interfaith marriages. Now, most religious communities are not really all that thrilled when their followers marry the followers of other communities. People who go to church are not really thrilled about their followers marrying people who go to mosques, vice versa. But but when those people get together, it doesn't destroy anything. It doesn't wreck society as we know it. These institutions of faith are allowed to continue existing as they have been existing. And what we have instead is that before the law, in front of the law, these spouses are recognized, and their rights and their privileges and benefits are all protected. And that's exactly what we're talking about when it comes to gay marriage. We're talking about, it's not necessary for cultural and religious communities to, fully adopt this with open arms immediately. Like, there's no mandate on that. But what is necessary is that our institutions of law and that our other institutions where legal recognition of the relationship matters, that these couples have this protection. So if you want to know why, some of us feel so passionate about this issue without being of the LGBTQ community ourselves, it's because, we recognize that this is part of that moral arc of the universe where, we got to look out for each other. And I'm hoping, Alabama, that you get it together. I'm really hoping that more states, follow the example of 36 states and the District of Columbia in giving full legal recognition to marriage out there. I think it's the right thing to do for love. I think it's the right thing to do for health justice. And I really feel like the time has come. And I can't say it enough. Alabama, get it together.